Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you guys are doing well and your week is off to a good start. Just wanted to create a quick video and pop in and remind you guys that the second transit Venus square Uranus is coming up here in just the next day or two. And yeah, I want to kind of dive deep and talk to you guys a little bit about my astro musings and how I'm seeing this take place out in the world. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, please click the bell button below so you're alerted as to when I have videos coming out on the channel. We're here pretty much almost every other day, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays we're putting out content. If you guys like horoscopes, astro weather, and everything else in between, please make sure you're subscribed or consider donating or joining my memberships to support my work. I appreciate it. All right, so you guys are watching on August the 8th. I'm shooting this a little bit prior to that, so I'm already starting to see some of these effects of the Venus-Uranus square out in the world. Just to give you guys the heads up, so this is actually going to be taking place tomorrow, so that'll be on August 9th. In the early morning hours, we are going to see the second of what will be 3 transit Venus square Uranus. Now you guys might want to look back in time, think back to what was going on round about July 1st, 2023. So about a month ago, last month, this is when we saw during the pre-shadow period Venus square Uranus, and this is going to be the second time. So as you guys are looking at the transits today, you are starting to probably feel that pinch. And this is, like I said, one of 3. So this is the second time that it's taking place. The final square that we're going to see between Venus and Uranus will be taking place on September 29th, 2023. And as always, you know, retrogrades, as they happen, there is a sequence of events that are unfolding. So first we see in the pre-shadow that we are reviewing, you know, the past. Something might be kind of coming up. Then we're going to see in the retrograde square, which is what we're experiencing this week, the need to really look at something and go, whoa, something's being revealed, right? Where the tension has been building in the pre-shadow, now we are being asked to reveal what's going on with this tension out in the world. It can be about relationships. It can be about a lot of things, so we'll get into that. And then finally, when we see the 3rd square in September, that's going to be in the post-shadow, so it'll be after the retrograde, and it's more about integration and dealing with the after effects of some of these particular squares. Now, obviously, extra important, now that the South Node is in Libra, it is ruled by Venus. So when Venus is in distress, we definitely see that this brings up South Node in Libra themes, releasing, letting go of relationships that are not in balance, things that are not fair. It's almost like justice is kind of being served. And throughout the retrograde, we're actually going to see Venus in aspect to both the South Node, helping us get out of some of these patterns, and also in positive aspect to the North Node, which is allowing us to kind of get more so in touch with our true nature. Now, as always with retrogrades, right, we're reviewing the past. So we are dealing with past events. Now, whether this is something that's been brewing for a while or it's just coming up and it's being brought up into your awareness, and it almost might feel like a deja vu, kind of like, okay, didn't we just deal with this a month ago? And the square really is going to be about breaking free. All month long, right, we're going to see all of these like bombshell events, and definitely with Venus being involved, the theme is kind of like the love bombing that's going to be going on throughout the week. Whether this is like, you know, bombshell news about financial situations or banks or the stock market, bombshell information out in Hollywood and, you know, exposure of something that's going on in regards to Hollywood stars, or just these revelations that we're having in regards to our own relationship with resources, as well as our relationships that are going to be a little unnerving. Now this will be taking place at 22 degrees. So let me show you guys the actual square that's going to be coming in tomorrow morning. And I guess I should note actually that as you guys are watching this today on the 8th, the moon is currently in Taurus. So the moon is in its exaltation, very comfortable here. It is in a conjunction to Jupiter, so emotions are highlighted. and it's edging towards a conjunction with Uranus, which is shocking and surprising. You don't need to wait until tomorrow to feel this Venus square Uranus aspect. I do believe it's going to be triggered all day long with the moon, as the moon is really bringing our attention to physical things, financial things, banks, and things involving resources, possibly even materials, things that have to do with valuables. So you might notice that you're kind of taking stock in like what you do and do not have today. And then the square that will be happening to Venus, which is the dispositor of all these planets in Taurus, is also saying there's just something that's not adding up and there's some kind of pressure. It almost feels like something's about to pop. So you're going to be feeling the effects of this as early as today. Maybe you've already been feeling it this week. I know I have. Now, when the exact square takes place, like I said, it'll be in the early morning hours on the 9th. And this will be taking place at 22 degrees. So if you have any personal planets in the fixed signs, let's say 20 to 24 degrees. If you are a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or if you have any personal planets within this 20 to 24 degrees, watch out, you're going to feel the pop. Likely you've already been feeling it since the beginning of July. And 22 degrees in degree astrology specifically is a degree that correlates with Capricorn. So if you guys have been following my videos for some time, you know that I really like to talk about the specific degree and what the connection is to other signs. It almost gives you like an extra little bit of like information or another layer to understanding the transits. And when we had this square, I do not believe it was actually at this degree. I'm going to double check. But I believe, let's see, July 1st, 2023. It was at 21. So, you know, when we first had the square, it was at 21 degrees. As we have the square that's going to be taking place this week, and even honestly next month at the end of September, the square is going to be at 22 degrees. So it will be at this Capricorn degree. All right, so here we go. So when we're looking at 22 degrees, it's bringing up themes revolving around Capricorn. Old history, things that are late, long-lasting, things that require a little bit more hard work. It can be difficult, it can bring trouble. We also see issues with like gloominess or depression, things that are cold, things that are frozen, but something that's resistant, right? Something that's taking a long time, because Capricorn is about overcoming and being able to get to the top of the mountain. We can also see issues revolving around skin diseases, cancer, shortages, poverty, missing things, rocks, mountains, and natural materials. Okay, so Venus is in a fire sign. It's in the sign of Leo. I do feel like this is going to be a lot of back and forth about people going, should I buy gold? Should I not buy gold? Should I get invested in the stock market? Should I not get invested in the stock market? Why? Because Leo rules these things. Perhaps we're going to be hearing more about increasing rates and more information coming out, you know, about the Fed and the direction that they're taking in regards to some of the financial pressures right now. I do believe a lot of it's going to be about government spending and, you know, how we're potentially trying to tackle some of this impending kind of debt and financial doom. But I would just be paying attention to what's going on today into tomorrow, because you're really going to start to feel the crunch. Now, coincidentally, this is also happening while we are having the last quarter moon square. So this is a third quarter moon square. We're going to see on the 16th, we're going to have a new moon that's going to be taking place in Leo. I put a video out on that if you guys haven't seen it, but it is jaw-dropping. That is going to be in an exact square to Uranus, and we are going to feel the free fall effect pretty much from mid-August all the way through September. So that lunar cycle in itself, in a square with the sun and moon to Uranus at 23 degrees, is going to be quite rattling. So what you're going to experience is kind of like the breakdown the next couple of days, the clearing out. And for those of you guys who have already been treading, you know, into some difficult, you know, territory with relationships or with finances, you're going to get another reminder that something may not necessarily be stable. All right. Now, for me, 22 degrees and that tie to Capricorn is about history, right? And history repeating itself. And so I think that something I've been kind of like marinating on a little bit throughout this transit has been the fact that we must be willing to go back in order to go forward. Like, we have to actually look at the past, learn about the past, rehash the past to be able to make better decisions for our future. We can never really fully go forward until we have really processed and learned some of the lessons from the past. That includes learning our history and making sure that we are getting actual representation of history. Because if we don't, then we're doomed to repeat it if we don't understand it. And that is just a broad statement. It's not necessarily about history pertaining to any one particular topic. For me, it came up a lot after seeing the movie Oppenheimer. I'll get into that with you guys in a second. But it's also like, what have we learned throughout our past dating histories, our past financial histories? What have we learned, at least here in the United States, about our financial history, and like, where could history potentially be repeating itself if we are potentially spending money like it's going out of style? So think about that, just to marinate on where perhaps old situations are coming up right now in the midst of this Venus retrograde that is making us really reevaluate. Hold on a second. Have we been here before? Did we learn our lesson? And do we need to repeat it? Now, I'd like to read to you guys the Sabian symbols. And I'm going to actually read the Sabian symbol both for Taurus as well as Leo. And if you're new to my channel, I love to work with the Sabian symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. If you guys are ever wondering what books I'm reading or what I'm referencing on the channel, you can click the description below and there's a link to my Amazon book list, just so everybody can benefit from learning more about this stuff if that interests you. And we always round up. Unless it's bang on and it's exact in a degree, which this is not, we're going to be rounding up to the next degree. So I'm going to start with page 85. I'm going to read to you guys Taurus 23, which I know I've read before. It might sound familiar. This is a jewelry shop. The keyword is preservation. The theme is all that glitters. The symbol speaks to a practical material value and a man's desire to own and possess those things that affirm or validate his personal concept for who he is. The image of a jewelry shop full of precious gems and minerals emphasizes luxury, wealth, and beauty. Jewelry is used to commemorate special events such as engagements, coronations, graduations, or weddings. This alludes to achievement, accomplishment, and a special status, but it also symbolizes aspiration, romance, and reward. At its highest, it represents wealth as a lower sign of higher mastery or of values and unique talent for creating beauty through imaginative enhancements of the ordinary. Negative, watch for greed, materialism, bad taste, or over-adornment. The accent is on possessions. You may be tempted to overspend, be extravagant with your resources. Change in status is indicated. The greatest advantage lies in focusing on quality. Work for and expect the best that can be achieved. Guard against excess or losing something from value by taking more than you need or going overboard in some direction. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Stepping stones, luxury, wealth, values, reward, elegance, lavishness, and splendor. Interesting. Obviously, you know, I can't help but like notice just seeing some stuff in the news recently. I think California passed a law pretty much banning anybody from intervening in shoplifting. So you're seeing all of these like teams that are basically coming in and moving in, working together, that are robbing various retail stores. Earlier, I was at the gym watching something on the news about it, and they were basically saying they had like a group that was working together, and of the most recent, I think they said it was like 50 or 60 arrests, like people, like separate people that were involved in different burglaries. Almost half of them were the same people, and that it was like an organized string group of people who were going in and like robbing retail stores. I'm sure you can't really watch a lot of the news without seeing this going on right now. It's pretty devastating to watch, understandably, on both sides. Also, a lot of this is being pushed because they're saying that they don't want retail associates getting injured or getting hurt trying to protect, property or things that are being stolen. Anyway, kind of reminds me of that. I think like the aspect of Venus, coming into a square with Uranus is like what people find valuable. trying to go and like grab things or trying to like reach for status pieces or things that are going to be like really sought after, especially because Taurus does deal with like quality and it does deal with wealth. Uranus being there makes me feel like about groups that are, you know, making moves to be able to monopolize and grab things, but it's not just people who are stealing from stores or robbing places. I think this is also large amounts of money that are kind of swinging in and out of different various banking institutions or financial platforms. So this wealth of the masses that's also kind of shifting. We're seeing a lot of people moving out of smaller banks, moving into bigger banks. And I do believe you're going to hear more of this domino effect that's going to be taking place of, you know, of certain, you know, banks that are potentially like collapsing and kind of like, you know, falling. We're going to see more of this with the Venus-Uranus square. I also saw just recently also, I think it was the same thing on the news. It was like a jewelry store owner, I think it was in Orange, California, was talking about how in the middle of the day, you know, somebody comes in, it was like a group of men that just, you know, around noon break into his jewelry store, smash everything up, and they steal all of the jewelry. And the guy is just like a mess in pieces because he's just like, this is my life's work. I've created all of this by hand. I've designed all of this by hand. And it was over $1 million worth of jewelry gone. Uranus is about breaking things down. It's about smashing things. It's about innovation and freedom, but it can also be about rebellion. So as we're seeing Venus coming into the square, I think it's going to be about people really reevaluating their values and where they've put their values, and challenges also financially as a result of, you know, this unrest that's kind of going on in the world right now. But pertaining to this particular Sabian symbol, you know, sometimes they do materialize quite literally. But I think in this sense, it's also talking about how you know, jewelry and physical things are like status, and that we're really taking a look at things and going like, okay, you know, are we investing in the right things? Are we putting our money in the right places? And Taurus can be physical. So we think of like land, we think of material goods, we think of what we have cash in hand in the bank. It can be jewelry, sure. But I think that there is just something that's like really shifting the way that people are looking at maybe taking chances with their resources, and if it really makes sense to put all of their eggs in one basket, and if they're being pushed to actually make some changes in the way that they're actually diversifying their assets. All right, let's read Leo, 23 degrees. This is page 172. Leo 23, a bareback rider. The keyword is audacity. The theme is daring to do. The symbol speaks to the consciousness mastery of experience and to the capacity for seizing the advantage of any situation that offers opportunity and self-advancement. The image of a bareback rider symbolizes mastery of the lower animal and sense of nature, and the implication here is an ability to maintain self-composure and perform at its peak in the most unstable situations. The symbol alludes to drama and self-marketing, or skill in showcasing personal talents and achievements in the best light possible. At its highest, the symbol represents daring, fearlessness, and relaxed, unruffled approach to problem solving. Watch for a tendency to be a show-off. The accent is on risk-taking, adventure. Some individual may make a bold, unexpected move and surprises everyone. Your greatest advantage lies in promoting your skills and talents. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Show what you can do. Guard against exaggerating your abilities. Don't promise more than you can deliver. Stepping stones are daring, fearless, performance, demonstration, display, dramatics, boldness. I think of this degree as kind of like, don't just talk about it, be about it, right? You know, and also making sure that you can kind of back up what you can actually, you know, put out there, seizing the moment. You know, where some people may take some creative, bold steps forward and it may potentially pay off. But the question is like, at what cost? And a lot of this also goes back to the example that I gave you. You know, you have like younger individuals who are feeling the pressure of things financially. You see people who are actually, you know, losing, or in some cases, some of these people are gaining as a result of some of these risks that they're taking. Obviously, not the best example, but I think it is in a sense of explaining to you guys how squares work, because squares are the energy of Mars. They represent pressure.
And also, you know, when you think about the underlining causes behind this uptick in crime, sure, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to want to blame and, you know, do the politics game, but let's just set that aside for a second. Really what it comes down to is pressure that's mounting financially, and the pressure to, you know, have more in a society where, you know, a lot of people are going to gloat about what they have on social media and show you the jewels and the money and the cars, but also the pressure to provide. And I'm wondering if this is also stemming from the fact that people are getting to a point where they're more desperate and willing to do what they need to do in order to provide for other people, or in order to, you know, maintain a relationship. You're going to see also a lot of people who are going to be having a more is better kind of mentality, you know, more and more, and trying to see how far they can potentially push this. I think we're seeing this with the market in the state that it is right now. I mean, to me, it seems like artificially kind of propped up personally, compared to some of the things that we're seeing in regards to just the pressure out in the world, and like it just feels like money is not going as far as it used to. Obviously, you know, inflation, but also like kind of reckless money printing. And so I think with the square at 22 degrees, could this perhaps be, you know, younger generations, almost like being left holding the bag for some of the mistakes that older generations have made, right? 22, Capricorn. And some people are going to say, well, the system's been broken for a long time and it's always kind of been set up to fail. And there may be some truth in that. But just being somebody myself who's like in my 30s, I'm kind of looking around going like, who dropped the ball? Like, how did things get to this point where, you know, now those of us who are, you know, 20, 30, 40 years old are now financially facing some of the toughest times economically, at least in recent history, maybe perhaps compared to the Great Depression, if we do see some of these things implode, right? I don't know, definitely concerning for somebody who's trying to be optimistic and positive about, you know, the future, at least on a personal level. Obviously, it's not just about money, right? Venus is also about love and relationships and pleasure and values. Money does come into this, especially the connection to Taurus, because this is about physical things. This is the I possess versus Libra, we have, we do together. And Uranus is about innovation, change, what's futuristic, sudden, electric, but also freedom. So themes that you want to watch for throughout this week that you're going to see as these love bombs show up. Could it be really similar to the term love bombing, you know, to just give everything to someone, give them everything and then pull the rug? Maybe some of you guys may experience that. I'm wondering if that's kind of what's happening across the board, especially with politicians and, you know, the direction of where things are going economically with governments. I'm wondering if this is intentionally being pushed in this direction to be able to roll out what might be just like a, you know, like a basic income that they potentially try to push, possibly. But I think that the key thing that really comes up for me with Uranus-Venus squares is restlessness. I don't know if anybody else has been feeling it. I have natal Uranus conjunct Venus, so I'm kind of like used to that feeling. But I'm not used to it from outside forces, right? So where for me, it's very, very much tied to my identity because Venus is my chart ruler, where I'm constantly kind of shaking things up. The square, I'm not as much of a fan of. I don't know, let me know what you guys think, or if you have that natal square. But restlessness and the need to kind of break free. That's definitely something that we're kind of feeling. If this has been something that's been kind of like hanging around for the last month or so, it might actually finally come home to roost, and you might start realizing, okay, how do I make the change and break out of a financial pattern or habit? How do I make a change in how I'm eating? Or how do I address the need to, you know, have some shifts potentially in a relationship? That could be coming up as well. But I definitely feel like there is going to be this pressure, because the square is the energy of Mars, to break free in some capacity. And also breaking free from materialism, greed, spending, you know, the need to have more, to control more. And for me, it's been this real reflective period of going like, you know, does that actually bring happiness, right? You guys have heard me talk about saying like, you can't buy me love, but that's quite literally what this square I think is really about. That even I think those who are well off may not necessarily find happiness, right, or fulfillment or true love or emotional connection if they're not doing the necessary internal work, right? And a lot of times that can also be trappings of keeping you in situations because you need the relationship to stay financially grounded, or you need the job even though you know that you need to break away from it to be able to pay the bills. So it becomes like this vicious cycle until we see some of these squares, and then that pressure builds and something snaps. So shaking things up, that's another huge theme with Venus square Uranus, new preferences, new tastes, new colors, new connections. I think maybe the ability to kind of shake up your relationship and maybe, change it up with date night a little bit, or, try some new things in terms of your intimate life. That can definitely bring that release that you're looking for. Because the other side of a Uranus-Venus transit, and especially those of you guys who have maybe experienced the square yourself, is the grass greener on the other side? Would somebody else or something else that might potentially be sparkly and new give me the excitement and the fulfilling that I'm looking for? Am I willing to break free of an existing kind of comfort zone? And whether that's with a relationship and you want to see what else is out there, or if you're in a situation where you've been alone for a while and now you're kind of feeling like, okay, I want to get out and about and kind of mingle. There is this tendency to almost have this contrarian effect where it's like you want to go against the grain and have what you're not necessarily supposed to have. So that can be coming up for you guys as well. Cravings for new social stimulation, I think, is another theme. And whether that's wanting to get out and about and meet new people, or hang out in new places, or joining new groups, or just feeling like you need like a burst of fresh air, that can be coming up in terms of wanting to connect with new people. And all week long, I joke, I call it love bombs, and that the love bombs might be dropping, but I do think that it is going to potentially be some really significant relationship tests or financial stress tests. I definitely could see the Venus-Uranus square as such, especially for those of you guys who have planets that are going to be within 20 to 24 degrees, because you're going to feel that square. So you may find that you're in a situation where something comes up and it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. For years I've seen clients go through Uranus-Venus transits that lead them to, liberating themselves from a relationship that has been either dead or dying for some time, and it ends up being the best for both parties involved. I've also seen people, go through periods where the relationship in itself is actually quite stable, but the individual is very restless and potentially considering or contemplating breaking free from the commitment, and there may be one little thing that kind of comes up during a transit that triggers something that makes them just kind of like want to throw in the towel and go, okay, I'm out. When in reality, it's because there was something underlying for quite some time that was, kind of brewing, and then something came up that it gave them the ability to kind of use that for liberation. So watch for those straws that can definitely break the camel's back this week, both financially, but as well as in relationships. A lot of personal, social connections, friends, and clients that I've been hearing from all week. That's just like, this is the last straw. I can't do any more of this across the board. But definitely I've heard a lot of this in regards to relationships. And also I've noticed a pattern of a lot of people that are bringing things up that they've been dealing with that has been creating pressure in their lives for quite some time. A lot of people seem to forget that, we get so caught up with like retrograde. Oh, it's the retrograde, don't do this. Retrogrades are meant to be a time where the planet actually encourages us to, go back to the drawing board and like clear things out and potentially come up with new options or new relationship potentials. And I think that this can be a time where if something has already been potentially on the rocks, this may be the transit that allows you to really, kind of clear the air, get it out in the open and discuss it. So if it is time to make a change, or if it is time to break free, or to try something new in an existing relationship, you may. And this is not limited to just romantic relationships, although those of you guys who are in committed relationships may feel this more. I definitely feel like it can be relationships with friends. Uranus has connections to friendships and, groups of people. I'm definitely seeing a lot of like friend stuff going on within my life for sure. But I also think that this can be our relationships, Uranus and Taurus, with banks, banking institutions, or our material objects, things that we find valuable that we possess. It may also be that there's something that's changing in regards to how much money we want to spend having fun or going out for entertainment, or spending on our children, or how much money we're spending when it comes to investments. So these are all ways that this can be changing. Some people may be looking into diversifying their assets. Other people are cutting off financial advisors, making changes with creative collaborators or friends alike. And like I said, spending money like it's going out of style. I mean, I think the Venus retrograde in itself is like a lot of reeling it in a little bit and realizing, maybe now that we're kind of coming to the end of summer here pretty soon, some people are looking around going like, I spent how much at the bar last week? Or, like putting that trip on the credit card and just saying a prayer and hoping for the best, and then coming back and realizing like just how much money was actually spent. Are we actually spending money like it's going out of style, though? I mean, I wonder, because I definitely think that a lot of people, at least who are more financially aware of what's going on in the world, may potentially see some of the stuff that's going on right now as like a house of cards moment. So people could be moving money out of banks and, into investments, and investing more in assets rather than liabilities. And trying to find ways to utilize that cash rather than just letting it sit in the bank, where it's kind of getting hit with, inflation, or, potentially not safe. So I think a lot of people are making these moves with this retrograde in itself. And I wonder if we're going to hear more, political or government related kind of pushback or regulations revolving around, well, how much can be taken out, how often, where is it going, how much access you have to it. Watch for that. I definitely think we're going to see something like that may come from this square. And with the Venus square Uranus, definitely a lot of people are starting to kind of be more so willing to take risks. And I would just say, I'm not a financial advisor, but be very careful, because I could definitely see a bit of like the volatility of the Venus square Uranus and how much it's going to kind of play out, that it could be a lot of encouraging people to actually want to buy into the market, only knowing that there's potentially going to be a pretty significant breakdown. And then, trying to get people to buy back in, and then also like riding it back down again. So to me, it seems very manipulated, and I think Uranus and Taurus would be that anyway, even if it was not aspected. Keep in mind, we're also going to be seeing that, Venus is going to square Jupiter again. So whenever kind of crazy things happen, we're going to see it be majorly inflated several times over. And I do feel like a lot of people are a lot more optimistic also with the sun that's been in a square with Jupiter, and can be optimistic that things can keep going up, or that, things are going to continue to just like be golden. But I think it's going to be a very different story as we get to the second half of September going into October, and we start to realize as Saturn and Venus start to oppose, that between job numbers and unemployment numbers, and layoffs, we're going to realize in quarter three that it's not nearly as positive as people are making it out to be. So be very mindful of that when it comes to your spending right now. Some ways that I'm seeing this energy play out in the world. Okay, so I've got a couple things that I wanted to kind of mention to you guys that piqued my interest. Over the weekend, I went to see Oppenheimer. If you guys have not already seen that, I'm not going to give any spoilers, really. Don't worry. Especially it's a historical piece, so there's no real spoilers. But nevertheless, I was very intrigued by Uranus and the connection to Oppenheimer. So obviously Venus, right, in Leo. Venus is art. Leo is cinema. Okay, so that's pretty significant. And then the square to Uranus, which is sudden and unexpected and explosive. It could also be things that are considered to be like bombs, things that go off at 22 degrees, history, right? And so, man, I had to wait like 12 days. I don't really go to the movie theaters. I've gone once in the last year, but I waited like 12 days to go and see this movie. I wanted to see it on IMAX and did a little bit of like background, getting some information on the movie before going to see it. And they start the movie with a quote referencing Prometheus, and immediately I was like, boom, there's Uranus, you know. So those of you guys who are not aware of the connection, I drew a couple kind of connecting the dots between Robert Oppenheimer and the mythological figure Prometheus. Also connects to Uranus, and it lies in the association with the themes of knowledge, innovation, and consequences. Now, Oppenheimer was a renowned American physicist who played a crucial role in the development of the atomic bomb during World War II. He was a part of the Manhattan Project, and he led to the creation of the first nuclear weapon, obviously, which had profound implications on global politics, warfare, and the course of human history. Oppenheimer's involvement in the project obviously raised moral and ethical questions about the responsible use of scientific knowledge and the potential destructive power of technology. Now, with Prometheus, in Greek mythology, he was a titan who was defied by Zeus by stealing fire from the gods and giving it to humanity. This act of bringing fire, a symbol of knowledge and civilization to humanity, was a gift that enabled progress and innovation, but also came with consequences. Prometheus suffered punishment for his actions, and Zeus chained him to a rock while an eagle ate his liver, which regenerated every day. So the connection for me between Oppenheimer and Prometheus can be drawn from the idea that both figures represent individuals brought significant knowledge and innovation to humanity, but had to grapple with the consequences of their actions. In Oppenheimer's case, his contributions for nuclear technology led to both scientific advancements and destructive power of nuclear weapons, which shaped the course of modern warfare and international relations. Like Prometheus, Oppenheimer had to face moral dilemmas and ethical considerations related to the use of his scientific achievement. Now, also, something else that I picked up is throughout the movie, you see a string of affairs and dilemmas and relationships and how it affects Oppenheimer, but more importantly, his freedom and how it comes to his inability to really be focused on the job in developing this several-year program leading to the bomb. Venus square Uranus, the pressures, right? And so love can be liberating with Venus square Uranus, but it can also be very limiting in this realization that we have to kind of feel like we're being pushed and pulled between, you know, relationships and commitment and being bound by love or, you know, liberation. And so we're going to feel that kind of push and pull where maybe we're weighing the pros and cons, right, between what it means to be safe and secure in a situation and, you know, be committed to something versus if we had freedom, all the potential and all of the opportunities and the ability and the excitement that that may bring. So really quite interesting to see that and to also see that movie open with that quote. Although I believe the movie, the screenplay is based on a book. I can't remember the title, but it also has connections to Prometheus. So it's a pretty reoccurring theme throughout that story. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. Really great movie. One of the better, more visually kind of, you know, stimulating movies that I've seen in a while. With that being said, something else that's kind of popping up that's very Venus square Uranus is PayPal has announced that they're going to roll out a stable coin. Okay, so many of you guys know Uranus has been in Taurus for several years now. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so we've seen a lot of like ups and downs with the crypto market. But this is really interesting that they're rolling out a stable coin. This will be a crypto token that's pegged to the US dollar, so it's 1-to-1. Under PYUSD, it'll be issued by Paxos Trust, and it's built on Ethereum. Fully backed by the US dollar, deposits short-term treasuries and similar to cash equivalent. So they're going to be launching this. And really what interests me the most is that apparently 70% of eBay's transactions are done via PayPal. So that's going to be a pretty big turning point if we're looking at PayPal potentially bringing this into their systems, because we're going to start seeing people buying and selling and trading goods, not just services, but like goods as well, using this technology. And apparently you'll be able to transfer, send, check out, and convert crypto, you know, from this PayPal coin to other cryptos and it'll have peer-to-peer payments. So that's going to be really interesting. I mean, I use PayPal on my website for transactions. I've used it for many years, so it definitely piques my interest, especially the conversion aspect of it. But I will say I dug a little bit into this. I recommend that you guys do the same. I was looking into some of the fine print and some red flags that are kind of being raised on this potential asset. It's being considered an asset protection. So if you go and actually look into like the open source on it, people are saying that in the user agreement, they have the ability to freeze, unfreeze, or wipe funds. Okay, little concerning. So technically it's decentralized in a way where, you can go and you can see what's going on in the back end, but like something about this kind of rubs me the wrong way, because that kind of takes away from there being any freedom when it comes to transactions. If you're agreeing to the terms when you're using this technology, or technically, I guess, this currency, that it can be manipulated or controlled. I seem to remember in 2022, PayPal threatening to withdraw up to $2,500 for users spreading misinformation. Definitely was enough to really upset me, being a long-term PayPal user. And I have since done everything possible when I can make a purchase online to not use PayPal. It's just a personal preference, because I feel like that's an extreme overreach and abuse of power. And personally, I've just been waiting for something to come through that could potentially rival that of PayPal. So if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. With Uranus-Venus squares, we also see lots of, like I said, turbulence in relationships. So, breakups, separations happen, but likely the retrograde portion, so Act 2 of this Venus-Uranus square, is the revealing, there's been trouble in the relationship for some time. You guys have heard me talk a little bit about how Lilith is involved in this particular retrograde, and so there can be like threes of crowd situations, or finding out that there is women that are really kind of standing up for themselves or taking their power back in the midst of making some changes in relationships and aligning with their own personal values, putting themselves first, right? Loving themselves, Leo. I want to say there's no surprise here, but, I don't know. I did take a look at least the chart of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So breaking news in this last week, Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie, it's confirmed via statement made by the Prime Minister's office that the former couple have signed a legal agreement and ended their 18-year marriage. Nodal return. They work to ensure that all legal and ethical steps regards to their decision to separate have been taken and will continue to do so moving forward. Okay? So apparently, supposedly, they've been living separated for nearly 4 years, but have maintained the appearance of being together and married happily in the public eye. Oof. Go look at Justin Trudeau's chart. You can see Saturn's actually coming into his 7th house. He's a Virgo rising, and you're going to start seeing all the squares to placements he has in the 4th house. So I would imagine, whether that's his spouse not agreeing to what's going on behind the scenes or at home or within the homeland, that there is some issues. And that's just me looking at his chart. I haven't really looked at hers, although I do believe she's an Aries. So perhaps maybe it's, this impending solar eclipse, 7th house to her sun. Maybe it's the North Node and Jupiter that's activating her sun. We'll see. Another big Hollywood breakup also that just hit this week. Natalie Portman and Benjamin Millepied. Is that his name? Am I saying that right? Obviously, I know Natalie Portman. How do you not know Natalie Portman? But this kind of surprised me a little bit. Married 11 years. A report came out claiming that Natalie and Benjamin have been fighting for their marriage amid this alleged affair that he had with a 25-year-old. According to the outlet, they quietly separated last year, but managed to work through their relationship, but have hit a rough patch when Natalie discovered that Benjamin was having an affair. Well, Lilith can sometimes be the other woman. Venus can be the wife, right? Or the moon, depending on how you look at it. So I could definitely see some of these squares revolving around differences in relationships, especially pertaining, other people getting involved, or other, preferences kind of changing in regards to a relationship. And I do believe we're going to see more of this throughout the retrograde. So keep in mind, even though Venus goes direct in early September, we're going to see this square kind of taking place all the way up through end of September, going into early October when Venus comes into an opposition with Saturn. So unfortunately, we'll add these two to the list of what has seemed already a pretty thorough list of breakups and separations. And I guess on the topic of Hollywood, Hollywood enters month 4 of strikes. Union strikes are taking place, and it would appear that there is no end in sight. So you guys might want to take a seat. It might be a while. Negotiators for the Hollywood studios and screenwriters have met this past Friday for the first time in months and made zero progress. Apparently, the two sides are no closer than they were at the start of the strike, and they can't even agree on how to resume negotiations. Apparently, the economic impact from the Hollywood strikes has been especially heightened in California, where film and television production accounts for more than 700,000 jobs and nearly $70 billion a year in wages. Now, this is hitting actors, directors, writers, assistants, crew, heck, even local restaurants due to no business lunches. They're not having to, go and deliver meals. They're not bringing in catering. And it's also bringing, less people that are going and visiting and kind of seeing what's going on set. So this is having a real significant snowball effect, in general. It's hitting a multitude of other groups. I did hear, however, this last week that there was negotiations apparently with Teamsters, and I want to say UPS, that it does seem like, because there's going to be a number of drivers and other people who are associated with those unions, which are really getting hit by these strikes, are potentially striking deals with delivery services to be able to maintain employment. So that's kind of the silver lining, that, through some kind of chaos or some kind of friction, people are actually finding opportunities where they may be needed. And I think a lot of this is Uranus. Uranus is unions. A lot of people think it's just Aquarius, and maybe when the moon goes through Aquarius, we're going to hear more about this. But I definitely do believe that, the negotiations of wanting to get, fair pay, and also things in regards to residuals, and this, challenge over, development of technology in the industry, and, ensuring that that's kind of worked into the contracts is very important, because we are kind of reaching this point where if they don't do this now, it's going to be harder to do this down the road. But I think it sets an example for a lot of people right now, where if we're not actually standing up for having more reworking of financial systems, reworking of financial agreements, the banking system, we may potentially hit a point of no return. So while some of you guys are feeling like, shift is hitting the fan this week, try to remind yourself that this is Venus that's really kicking up all the dust, trying to get you aware of where something is not sitting right. It reminds me a lot of Wedding Singer. You guys know Wedding Singer. Remember where Adam Sandler, after the breakup that he has, comes into the wedding and he's just super drunk, and he's performing his song, and he's singing that whole Love Stinks song, and he's referencing all of the unhappy couples and all of the people that are in the wedding, I guess the crowd at the reception. That's kind of what this week is going to feel like. As much as I hate to say that, a lot of people are going to be noticing that, something's not quite sitting right in a relationship, or they're not quite feeling quite fulfilled, and they're wanting to kind of break away, or they're wanting some kind of freedom. Try to remind yourself that this is coming up right now, so that way you can have the opportunity to liberate from whatever is not actually feeding your soul, okay? I'd love to hear your stories below. If you're experiencing any of this stuff collectively, we can commiserate together in the comments. I would definitely like to hear how this is affecting you guys. I can just say I have felt this across the board all week, so you're not alone. And we're going to continue to keep monitoring and seeing how this is playing out. We will definitely be taking a look at the square closer to September. And there's a lot to say about that last square, because like I said, then Venus will go into Virgo and oppose Saturn. So a lot of us are ripping off the Band-Aid, where something's not feeling right, or something's just not working ultimately anyway at the beginning of October. So I've encouraged a lot of people to be super aware of what's going on with this transit this week, because you could potentially spare yourself from another 2 months of drama by just kind of facing the music now. Now, if you guys like my content, you want to see more, make sure you click that button below. As always, I appreciate your likes, your comments, and your shares.
even a thumbs up or a comment below. Any interaction with the channel really helps the channel grow. It gets the algorithm kind of going, and it lets other people in YouTube land know where I can be found. If you guys want to book a personal reading with me, check out my website below at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I've got openings in the month of September and October, as well as tarot classes, astrology classes, and much, much more. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter so you're alerted as to when I have new courses and webinars that are coming out in the fall. We have a whole bunch of new products and stuff also, so make sure you check that out on the website. And I will be back here on Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this Mercury retrograde and how to practice some critical thinking as we kind of go through the cosmic washing machine with some of these Neptune oppositions to hopefully stay a little bit more grounded with the news cycle and also more checked in with our higher self. Wish you guys a happy week, and I will see you back here then. Until next time, take care.